Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host, Beth Lindop, and today I'm joined by my two favourite Liverpool Echo LFC writers, jointly, of course, with Mr. Theo Squires. If you're watching, Theo, we love you. Paul Gorst and Ian Doyle. Gorsty, busy week for you. You've been out in Leipzig. How was it? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, not bad. Didn't enjoy my flight getting cancelled on Wednesday. That was a bit of a faff having to sort an alternative route home for Thursday. But yes, good win for Liverpool. 3 wins from 3 now in the Champions League. And all very, I'm sure we'll get onto it, but all very controlled, wasn't it? You know, Liverpool are really sort of establishing themselves now as a very tough nut to crack. And that was certainly the case on Wednesday.
Mr. Doyle, you okay?
Can we just send our best wishes to Theo and hope that he's back soon? Can we do that?
Was that a pointed dig at me, or?
No, it's not. It's just I'm just saying as though I feel as though we haven't really acknowledged the fact that he's not here.
Yeah, he is coming back.
Yeah, like something serious.
Well, it is a little.
Well, yeah, but it was all planned.
It was planned. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to go into it because he's obviously, but
he'll
be back soon. He'll
be back soon. Yeah. Liverpool then at the top of the game at the moment, and you know who else is at the top of the game? NordVPN, our lovely sponsors. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. Sorry, I was laughing because our lovely producer Ian, who is of an Everton persuasion, is just showing us his newest Everton-related memorabilia.
Yeah.
It's very good, sent in by a lovely listener. So if there's any Blood Red listeners who want to send us in some Liverpool merch, then feel free.
We'll put it
on the stand.
As opposed to us having produced it all ourselves.
Yes, of course. So Ian, as Ghosty said, it was another win for Liverpool in Europe. Clean sheet, a goal for Darwin Nunez. As far as nights go, it was a pretty good one for Liverpool on Wednesday.
Well, it was good in all that sense. I mean, I saw that a lot of people were... Well, actually, to be fair, obviously I wasn't there at the game, but watched it on the television, and there was a press conference afterwards, as there normally is. I know that you were in the mix zone, but Slot was asked a question about control, wasn't it? Saying you didn't really have control of the game, and he was very forceful with his reply, wasn't it? Basically saying, were you even in the stadium? Were you even in the stadium? Because, Liverpool were very poor for the first 15 minutes, relatively speaking, compared to what they've been. Mm-hmm. But, when you're as old as I am, you've seen a lot of European games, and it's the old thing of if you can quiet the crowd in the first 20 minutes, and Liverpool ultimately did that, scored the goal shortly afterwards, and then for the next 45 minutes, possibly, they were quite clearly on top. Should have got another goal. And then they had like that 15-minute spell towards the end where Leipzig threw on a load of fitter, fresher players, gave it a bit of a go as the home team. Liverpool probably the amount of games caught up with them a little bit towards the end, and the lack of, there's one day less rest between the games. They played Chelsea on the Sunday, Leipzig played on the Saturday, and Slot made mention that today. But in injury time, Leipzig, they kind of burned themselves out, didn't they? So they didn't really create anything as those 5 or 6 minutes. So overall, nobody got injured, which is another good thing, certainly with the games coming as they are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the first time, Gorsty, that Liverpool have won all 6 away fixtures to start the season. They're also the first Liverpool team to win 11 of the first 12 games. I mean, the records, it seems, are tumbling every week. As far as starts to the season go, it's been impressive, hasn't it?
Yeah, it really has. And then you start to think, when there's a good start, become a good season. And I suppose maybe we'll only know that answer much further down the line. But, Klopp didn't come in and do this. Dalglish, Paisley, Fagan, whoever you want to name, didn't come in and notch up this sort of record in the early going. And Slot will play it down like he tends to do most things. But I think supporters should be really encouraged by the record. And it looks like that defeat of Forest, which I think was a bit concerning at the time, because it was sort of, this game is going to be something that Liverpool are going to have to navigate quite often. Mm-hmm. Teams looking to sit in Anfield and counter, and the fact that they lost it was probably a little bit of a jolt and a shock. But that's looking more and more like a little bit of a total off day, isn't it, compared to everything else that's followed? So I think Liverpool supporters can be massively enthusiastic about what could come. They just look so strong defensively at the moment, which wasn't really the case last season when You know, you were sort of every game you're on the edge of your seat. It was a white knuckle ride, and Liverpool were having to fight back and score twice to win games and conceding early and all that sort of stuff. And this is just night and day, really. So yeah, I still don't think they're quite clicking on all fronts up top. I think, you know, there's a little bit of room for improvement there, but at the back with the back four and the two in front in the midfield, they've been superb.
Yeah, I should mention as well, we are live on YouTube, so if anyone wants to drop us a comment, ask a question for one of the guys, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to answer it. We'll dive into some individual performances then. Doyle, Gorst, you mentioned how strong the defence looked. I thought Ibrahima Konate was exceptional, has been really since the start of this season. How impressed have you been with him?
Yeah, he was good. Although it was interesting that the one mistake he did make led to the main chance, which underlines how important he was, really, because he didn't make those mistakes, and he was...
Yeah.
I think what he's done, he certainly did it against Chelsea, and I would imagine if we speak to him, I can't remember the last time we spoke to him, to be honest. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Before the FA Cup final. Yeah, 2022.
Is that the last time? It's a long time. Anyway, I suppose if you get the chance to ask him, you know, what's changed with your defending? I would imagine he's more on the front foot. Certainly against Chelsea, I was about to say, you could see there was times where he was coming out of Liverpool half, going into midfield to try and win the ball. He was doing that again. To a lesser degree against Leipzig, because obviously they didn't really have to be that offensive because they got that lead. But yeah, he's getting in the way. And most importantly, he's getting in the way of stuff. You know, he's heading it. I mean, Liverpool, I think, are top for aerial challenges in the Premier League, at least. If you've got Van Dijk and you've got Konate, and in fact Gomez is actually quite good when he comes in for that kind of thing. That's important, and Quanta as well when he's had his chances. But he's not unfit. Basically, he's fit. Is an easy way of saying that.
Yeah.
Well, he's managed to avoid so far the injuries that kind of hampered him the last couple of... And I don't mean big injuries. I mean just like little hamstring strain, which you kind of saw towards the end of last season. He never really got over that properly. And that even got mentioned. He said that about the Euros, didn't he? He says, sometimes I didn't even train, you know.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have even been there, I suspect. But yeah, he is somebody who's responded to the fact he was dropped towards the end of last season, and of course he didn't start the season, did he? Quanta started it, so that told you what his standing was after the summer, in which, you know, he wasn't with the squad as often as Quanta was, because obviously he was in the Euros, but it wasn't just him. You know, the rest of them got in the team, but he didn't. So that was a reflection on the particular standard. But since then, my only worry is obviously is that they're still playing 3 games a week, and we won't play against Brighton in the League Cup next week, but you'd be wanting to play all the other games, and is there a point where you worry, is he going to fall over again?
I think one of the things that has enabled him to stay fit is just covering less ground. You know, last season he was almost operating as a centre-back and a right-back at times, wasn't he? And that was something he said when they started this Trent Alexander-Arnold experiment where he was going into midfield sort of at the back end of 22-23 season. It was asking a lot of Konate as the right-sided centre-back, so now with Trent playing a little bit more as an orthodox fullback, it means that Konate's having to cover less ground, and as a result he looks fitter and fresher. And I think now, to be honest, you're looking at so he didn't play the 45 minutes against Ipswich, he didn't play against West Ham, but he's played every other game, that right, every other minute, so that's a decent sample size across, what was it, 10 and a half games. I'd probably say he's putting together the best sequence of form that he has done since he moved to the club, really, in terms of over a 10-game period. I mean, we know towards the back end of, 21-22, he was really good. But
Man of the match probably, wasn't he, in that Champions League final?
Yeah. But I just think at the moment he's in a really, really good stretch of form, and the longer he stays fit, the longer he's got to sort of prolong that as well.
Yeah, we heard a lot before Arne Slot came in about what his record was like in terms of injuries at Feyenoord, and so far, touch wood, it's proven that he's working wonders really with this Liverpool squad. I think you always feel a bit anxious when you see players like Konate playing 3 games a week, but so far he's managed to handle it. We've got a question from Chris Brack on YouTube who said, is this the longest consistent run of games Konate has played for us? Does anyone know the numbers on that?
I don't actually, but I'd suggest it might not be far off.
It's an article idea there for
Well,
us.
it would be 4 or 5. When did he play West Ham? Oh no, it'd be 7, wouldn't it? I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, I mean in the Premier League, what is it now? It's 10? No, 8 games. So it's 7.5 that he's played in the Premier League.
3 in the Champions League, and then he obviously didn't play in the League Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it might be. I mean, when Matip was fit, Klopp always liked to rotate them, didn't he? And it was almost like Konate was the Champions League centre-back, and Matip was the Premier League one. Not really sure why that was a thing. It tends to be like a goalkeeper policy that Klopp used for centre-backs as well. So, yeah, it could be. And that's what I mean. I just think like that so far this season, you know, across the sample size, it could be the best run of form that he's in. And captain France during the international break, so he's clearly growing in stature there as well. So, yeah, I think he's having a really good season, and you can see why Liverpool are keen to tie him down for the prime years of his career now.
Yeah, and Gorst said earlier, Doyle, about sort of he's not covering as much ground because Trent is maybe taking on slightly more of a conventional right back role a lot this season, and I think one sort of standout aspect of that performance on Wednesday was Trent's defensive side of his game, and I think this season it definitely does feel like the defensive sides of his game has gone up a level. I know he's spoken about Arne Slot being quite harsh with him and not harsh, but being honest with him and telling him where he can improve, and I think you can see that on the pitch, can't you?
Well, I think Ian Doyle is going to be quite harsh with him for the first 20 minutes against Leipzig, where he wasn't particularly... What was it, 80% of the stuff he was doing was all over the place, but 20% of it was very good, and in the second half he addressed that a bit more. Yes, going back to Konate, I think the other thing is obviously there's 2 holding midfielders now rather than 1. So that's also helped, not just him, but Van Dijk, and has helped Trent when he does go off, because it's now just not on the centre-back to drop or go across. You can get the midfielder can drop back, or even sometimes, you know, we've seen the game against Chelsea, Salah was coming back, wasn't he? That wasn't necessarily...
Nunez
exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, they're all buying into it because they can see it works. And, you know, this Liverpool team, one thing it's certainly not guilty of is being shy of the work rate, and that's always been the case under Klopp. And it's interesting because it's been so drummed into them. Now they're probably doing less. I mean, I don't know the figures, but you can see it for yourself. Certainly intense running. They're doing less of that, which has freed them up possibly physically to do more of the other stuff, which is why they're able to plug the gaps a lot easier. Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see how it goes the longer into the season, but then that's the same for every team. Everybody gets tired.
Yeah, but 5 goals conceded now in 12 games, isn't it? And that's enough of a run to suggest that that's going to be a pattern rather than just maybe a little bit of good luck and good fortune at the beginning of the season. They just look so strong defensively, and like Doyle says, the players are really buying into it. There was one in the second half against Leipzig when Gravenberch tracks back, puts in an interception, so it only goes off for a corner, and Van Dijk sort of celebrates with him like he's just scored, and you just tell they're all just so committed to, you know, keeping this defensive record going, and they're not really conceding many big chances, are they, as well, which I think has to be the biggest indicator that they are getting it right.
Part of the reason why these 7 games that they play at the moment are that important, or will learn a lot from it, is because they're playing against teams who create a lot of chances. For example, you might say Forest traditionally don't, Wolves don't, Ipswich probably don't, Bologna don't, you know, West Ham away at Anfield tend not to, you know, so there's that. But then they've come up against a Leipzig team that scored loads of goals for being second in the Bundesliga. Chelsea had a lot of the ball, but
not too many clear-cut chances.
Chelsea've scored goals, haven't they?
Yeah, Arsenal we know about, and then, you know, Brighton, while they're a bit up and down with their form at times, one thing they never do is not create chances. And Leverkusen, they've scored loads of goals last season, and of course there's Aston Villa as well, who another team who don't mind a bit of a shot, certainly not from range. If you're John Duran, you'll have a shot from here. So yeah, I do think that we will learn an awful lot. But the fact that they've had the 2 games, Chelsea didn't create a lot. Cole Palmer was kept quiet against Leipzig. I thought, as I say, Konate was one. I mean, was there another? Did they have another chance? The offside ones, I'd never count the offside ones. They're not chances.
No, yeah, he scored 2 offside goals, didn't he? But other than that, I think it was it went through at the end. Was it Benjamin Sesko, and Kelleher saves with his foot?
That's the one, yeah. That was the Konate mistake.
Well, you mentioned Kelleher there, and that is obviously another huge aspect of this defensive run that they're on. It is having a world-class goalkeeper behind them. Obviously, Alisson is very much in that bracket. Kelleher has now come in and hasn't put a foot wrong, and I thought he was tremendous on Wednesday because he had very little to do, did he, in the first half? He commanded his area well and things like that, but it was the second half.
Less command of outside the area when he went out for that header.
that was a slightly mad one, although I didn't actually see the sort of passage of play that led up to that. I just looked up and suddenly he was out of his box, so I'm not quite sure how that all transpired. But second half, when he was called upon, he made some exceptional saves, and that's the mark of a top goalkeeper.
Yeah, 100%. He just doesn't put a foot wrong, really, does he? Can you think of any mistakes that he's made for Liverpool, like any real howlers?
That's Atlanta, he should have said that first one. Fulham, he dropped one in. There's loads of them.
There's not many, is there, for someone who's played probably 40 times now for Liverpool?
It's 50, isn't it? 50, 51, isn't it? 51, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we say a lot, don't we? Liverpool, in a way, they are fortunate to have a deputy of such quality, but they're also, it's a credit to the scouting that they were able to get this young kid in from Ireland, from Ringmahon Rangers, when he was like 15. And now he is one of the best backups around, and that probably does him a disservice as well, referring to him as that. I'm sure he probably wouldn't like to be called that. So he's a Premier League quality goalkeeper in his own right. He's just got the misfortune, I guess, of playing in front of a player who many think is the world's best in Alisson, certainly top 3 or 4 or 5. So yeah, he's been brilliant, Kelleher, and it's one of the reasons why you're not too concerned about Alisson's absence. Obviously, you'd rather have your first choice goalkeeper in, but as soon as he's injured now, you think, oh, well, Kelleher has proven that he can step up.
Yeah, I think now you'd probably say that Kelleher will go next summer. He's obviously come out and been very vocal, and rightly so, that he wants to go and be a number one. The club have been vindicated for the decision so far to keep him at the club. We know that Mamardashvili is coming in next summer. He did very, very well at the Euros. Can't say I've watched an awful lot of him for Valencia, but is there an argument that Liverpool have a big decision to make when you look at Alisson's injury record? Is there a chance, you think, Liverpool could keep Kelleher around as the number one?
Well, I don't think so. You don't buy a £30 million goalkeeper for next season and then not have him as possibly the number 2. So there's no. I think Kelleher will go at the end of the season and he'll get himself a good club and he'll have a good career. Liverpool got any sense though? They'll put a nice little buyback clause in, because he's not going to get any worse. He's only going to improve. So, and he's still very, very young for a goalkeeper. What was he, 25?
Yeah. That's the thing with Kelleher, isn't it? We were there when he made his debut, weren't we, against MK Dons, and he only made his debut in that because Alisson was injured at the time when he got injured against Norwich at the beginning of that season, and Adrian comes in as the second choice. So Klopp plays Kelleher, who was third choice at the time, and he sort of nudges above Adrian in the pecking order over the years, and then he's still sort of in the same position all these years later. So I can totally understand why he feels now is the time to push on. I think he felt that he was going to get a move in the summer, didn't work out, and now he's still at Liverpool. So yeah, I think maybe this summer, or next summer rather, will be the one when Liverpool finally wave him off goodbye and goes with the best wishes of everyone.
Yeah, well, a long time to go until then. But moving to the other end of the pitch, Darwin Nunez gets the goal on Wednesday. Thought he built on what was a really solid performance against Chelsea. Against Chelsea, he wasn't particularly potent in the opposition penalty area, but in terms of his work rate, his diligence, his tracking back, I thought he was fantastic. And then he scores sort of like the prototypical number 9's goal, doesn't he, against Leipzig? Yeah. And it's heartening to see him score those kind of goals, because that's something that maybe has been lacking a little bit during his time at Liverpool.
So I think that was his 35th Liverpool goal, and you could easily say it probably could even be near double that, couldn't it? So these are the sorts of goals he needs to be getting on the end of, little tap-ins that number 9s snaffle up. The best number 9s, I always remember Ruud van Nistelrooy used to score all kinds of tap-ins like that, didn't he? And Haaland, for all the sort of incredible goals that he scores, he's got so many of those as well. And yeah, I think the challenge for Nunez is just to do that more often now, and just continue what has been an encouraging little spell of form. I thought he was really good when he was off the bench Sunday. I thought he led the line superbly on Wednesday night. I give him the highest rating in the player ratings. Could have had a second, couldn't he, with Gulax? He made a good save. Thought he led the line really well. Should have won a penalty as well. I'm not sure what the referee was thinking with that one. So yeah, it was encouraging. And he's a totally different type of striker to Diogo Jota, and he's sort of, Nunez is going to have to buy in a little bit more to what Slot wants from a defensive point of view, and I think that's why you've seen him notably sort of tracking back like he did against Chelsea, and the chances are drying up, the shots are drying up a little bit. In Klopp's system, chances seem to arrive at him or for him every few minutes, didn't he? And you were just thinking if he could just turn a few more of these into goals, but he is becoming a bit more of a system player, and that's no bad thing really. So he just needs to kick on and just continue building on what has been a decent week for him, or a really good week.
We'll get on to Sunday in a minute, Doyle, but one player we know that won't be involved is Diogo Jota. You were both at the press conference this morning, and Arne Slot confirmed that he's not going to be available for that one. We don't know. Did he specify how long Jota was going to be out for?
No, he's always quite guarded, isn't he, with the injuries? Didn't decide to tell us what it was, but we think it's a rib injury.
Yeah, well, we know for now, obviously, that he's not going to be involved. Are you concerned? How much of a blow do you think it is that Jota's not going to be there and available on Sunday?
Well, he loves scoring against Arsenal, so that's a bit of a blow. How many times he scored the Emirates? At least twice, hasn't he? Yeah, and he scored a few at
Scored
home
in the League Cup as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So he's got, it will be a bit of a blow for Liverpool, but how many times has Nunez started at Arsenal? Did he score? He scored in the 3-2, wasn't it? 3-2, yeah. Don't think he started there in the defeat 3-1, did he? I can't remember.
I remember now. February, was it?
Yeah, I
think he was injured. Was he at that? Was he injured at that point?
Well, if only we could have found out before we came in. Anyway, if he did play, he didn't
Not
do
like
anything.
It's our job
I don't remember
or anything,
anything about it. So yeah, now Jota is a blow because you always want as many players available as possible. But Nunez looks like somebody. I wrote something on Wednesday saying he looks like somebody who wants to be part of it, which for somebody who. They've had all the debate over his body language towards the end of last season and the fact that he puts on private, deletes pictures of his social media. Who cares, to be honest, about that? But it gets people talking, and now he's getting people talking by the fact that he actually quite clearly wants to be a big player for Liverpool. And yeah, the penalty. If Rio Ferdinand's saying at half time that he can't believe why it's not been given, that shows you how much of a penalty it was. I mean, what were they thinking? How could VAR? What were they doing?
The referee was awful, wasn't he?
My favourite one was the McAllister gets fouled and then
booked.
Moans about being fouled and gets booked. Oh, did he get booked for diving?
He got booked for diving, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the referee, funny enough, the referee in the Bologna game was bad as well, I thought. So that's 2 out of 3 that have been a bit iffy in Europe. So it just goes to show that it's not just English referees that have a bit of a problem.
Yeah,
I didn't say that, you said that.
Final word then on Wednesday, Gorsty. Liverpool now in a really strong position to qualify second in the table. I actually didn't realise until I saw that table that there were only 2 teams, Liverpool and Villa, who'd won all 3 of the games. I thought there was maybe going to be a couple more than that, but obviously they've got 2 really tough tests coming up next in Leverkusen and Real Madrid. The big advantage is that Liverpool are at home, so you would expect them to get at least a couple of points out of that, if not more. But then when you look at the other fixtures that they've got, they're in a strong position now to maybe be able to pick the way through, and maybe by the time they get to those latest fixtures, they might just be able to rotate.
Yeah, I mean, they've got Girona, haven't they, and PSV sort of, was it December and January, and if they need the points, you'd imagine that they could be looking at picking up maybe 4 or 6 across those games, and they're already in a really strong position to totally revamp competition, isn't it? So you've got no real sort of evidence to go back to point to what is usually a ballpark figure for what you need to qualify. But the second at the moment, they're only one of 2 teams who are on 9 points, and penny for Aston Villa's thoughts at the moment, top of the Champions League. How many teams is it? 32?
36.
I mean, it'd be embarrassing, wouldn't it, if they didn't go on to win it from here?
Yeah. Just Villa's name's on the trophy, was it 70s?
82.
82. So, Liverpool made a really strong start, and they've had some difficult fixtures as well, actually. AC Milan away, RB Leipzig away. So, it's been a really strong start, but I don't think they're going to be resting on the laurels with Leverkusen and Real Madrid to come, because Real Madrid, what a huge game that's going to be, and Leverkusen with all the narrative, in inverted commas, around Xabi Alonso and the fact that he's turning them into something of a continental giant themselves. So, some big games on the horizon.
I can't believe how many teams, by the way, in that big one league have got 3 points or fewer.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. There's absolutely tons of them.
Yeah, I know. It was. I was quite surprised when I saw that table, how it was sort of shaping up.
I think Bayern Munich have only got 3 points, haven't they?
Yeah, they've not made a great start. Just before we get on to Arsenal, we've got a question from LFC SG on YouTube.
Steven Gerrard?
Maybe, yes. Yeah. Well done, Stevie, if you're watching us in Saudi. He says, Adidas kits are back for the 25-26 season. Thoughts on the greatest Adidas kit we've ever had? The 89-90 kits were the best we've ever had, in my opinion. You got any?
Is he saying that?
Not
Yeah.
a bad
Or
shout.
she?
Or she? Yeah.
Doesn't you know?
I always liked the was it 0809 one?
Is that Adidas?
Yeah,
91, 92.
it's a nice one.
The 3 stripes on the corners.
There we go.
on the
LFC
shoulder.
SG answer to your question.
I
Arsenal,
agree with those points, by the way.
the best kits that Liverpool have had.
Yeah, I do think Adidas.
New Balance had a good run, didn't they? Nike have been okay, I think, but
What about Warrior?
Warrior, less
He's blotted that out of his
Warrior
memory.
on
They
about.
look like rugby union kits, some of them, the Warrior efforts. But yeah, Adidas, we believe, or Adidas, as they probably should be known as, are on the way back, it seems.
Yeah, well, Arsenal then, a team who do wear Adidas. They do have Adidas kits, don't they?
Yeah.
I think they do. Tough game, probably the toughest test that Liverpool have got to face so far. How are you feeling ahead of that one?
This is a bigger game for Arsenal than it is for Liverpool. Liverpool win, they go 7 points clear of Arsenal, and Arsenal will be looking up at a 7-point gap, not to Man City, but to a team who they might have reasonably expected to have finished above. So they not only have to sort of claw that back, but also they've still got City above them as well. City at home to Southampton on Saturday, so you expect that they're going to win that one. So this is huge for Arsenal. It's huge for Liverpool, of course, but I think there's a degree of relaxation that Liverpool can go into this one, and also, good that the boots on the other foot for once in terms of Arsenal not having William Saliba, Saka, Odegaard, Calafiori, Jurriën Timber. We expect all of them to miss the game. Certainly Saliba, as he's suspended. So a chance for Liverpool to, a more controlled Liverpool to go there and sort of feel the way into that game and maybe sort of develop a little bit of a ruthless streak. And if they can come away with a win there, that's absolutely huge.
Yeah, Gorst, you mentioned there, Doyle, about injuries. So they trained today, Arsenal. There was no sign of Bukayo Saka, Calafiori or Jurriën Timber. We know obviously Saliba's not involved, Odegaard's not involved either. Maybe you could see a world where Saka makes the squad, certainly, couldn't you? Arteta's been slightly evasive, I think, about
Saka
him.
will play well.
So you imagine he might be involved, but there are a number of...
Do you know what, though? I think Arteta does that thing where he doesn't like to give too much away on injuries, because after Odegaard gets injured for Norway, he was sort of trying to pretend that he was going to be okay for the weekend. He didn't want to go too heavy on the fact that whoever they were playing after the break, his best attacking midfielder was definitely going to be absent. So maybe there's a case of him just trying to kid Slot on that Saka might be involved.
Yeah, I mean, I've just actually had a look. He's done sort of, I think, as we've been live, Arteta's done his press conference, and he said Timber, Calafiori and Saka are very uncertain whether they're going to face Liverpool. So I suppose we'll find out more on Sunday, but certainly you imagine they're not going to be at the full strength. How much of an opportunity then is it for Liverpool, Doyle? I mean, we've got, I think a couple of people have said it in the comments. I think Sanjay Mystery has said it's the best chance in a while to beat Arsenal at the ground. Would you agree with that?
Well, they only won 2 years ago, so it's not that long ago that they won. They won twice in about a few weeks, didn't they?
I think looking at Arsenal...
In fact, they won the last season 2-0 in the FA Cup.
Yeah, they did actually, yeah. We always forget that one.
Yeah.
But I think looking at Arsenal across the last 2 seasons as a maybe different animal to what they were sort of before that, if that makes sense. Remember Liverpool went there, beat them in the League Cup and then beat them in the Premier League in the space of a month.
I mean, they've got a draw at Anfield twice in the last 2 seasons as well, haven't they? So I think, like you say, in terms of recent history, they've been very sort of tight games, very cagey games. Do you feel like without them having all of the top players fit and firing, that it is a real opportunity for Liverpool?
It is, but it's still Arsenal away, isn't it? It doesn't matter who's available. They'll still make it tough. There's a reason why they finished second the last 2 years, but there's also a reason why they haven't won anything. So it is an example that Liverpool can certainly go there and do themselves justice. I don't think they did when they played there in the league in February.
Yeah,
I think it's
had it
probably
not been
one
for
of the worst.
Alisson and Van Dijk's rare mix-up.
Well, the thing is,
though.
you're right, that's still a 1-1 game, isn't it? Because Arsenal kind of run out of ideas as well.
And Liverpool's goal in that one was just totally bizarre.
That was Gabriel's own goal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Diaz kind of ran through for a bit and then it bounced off about 7 players.
I think Liverpool have had, over the last few years, they've had a couple of those at the Emirates, haven't they? Even the season they won the league when there were no fans in at that point.
They lost that one.
They lost, but it was a real... I don't know if both of the Arsenal goals came from Liverpool mix-ups, but there were a couple of defensive errors in that game.
That's right.
So they've not got a particularly great record in terms of that at the Emirates
One
in
thing that's
recent years.
interesting with the Emirates, and obviously I've been going there since they opened it, which is 18 years ago now. It sounds bad for just saying that. The atmosphere's been good the last few years, and even in 2022, not 2002, it's terrible then. 2022, it was good.
It wasn't open then, was it?
In fact, in 2002 it wasn't open, there you go, yeah. It was just like an industrial estate. In 2022 it was good, and you kind of picked up on that. So that's all come from Arteta and the way that they play under him. I think, funny, isn't it, that Emery went there with such a good reputation, it just didn't work for him. Yeah. And he's gone to a bit of a route, but he's ended up at Villa, and he's got them in the Champions League, and some managers are good fits, and obviously Arteta played for Arsenal when he was at Everton. By the way, he was a lovely fella at Everton when I was covering Everton. No, nice fella. Actually read your stuff as well. He'd dig you out on it now and again. Yeah, he was the one really. Yeah, dig you out on it. So obviously a very learned individual and very tasteful in terms of his copy that he reads. Yeah.
Very discernible.
Yeah,
distinguished taste in sports journalism.
I actually think Martin Odegaard is huge for Arsenal because he's the string puller, isn't he? Every time I watch Arsenal, he's brilliant. He gets on the ball. He plays the passes that few players in Europe can play, and you're always on edge when he has the ball because of what he can do. So I think that is a huge boost for Liverpool, and we seem to be saying that every week, but again, it's another big test for Ryan Gravenberch in this new holding role. And I think I wrote the other night that given that Liverpool are top of the Premier League and having won all the Champions League games, that you could probably realistically claim him to be one of the best midfielders in Europe this season. So this is the type of fixture where he can look to justify all the praise that he's got this season.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if Arsenal do the dog it out in midfield in terms of do they play Rice, Jorginho and Thomas Partey, because then that would be interesting to see. Three? Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether they did that, because Liverpool's three undoubtedly are a bit silkier than them, but probably not physically powerful.
No, so it'll be who wins that battle.
Well, yeah, and as it always is in these big games, it is about the midfield, but Liverpool so far have shown themselves more than capable of doing that. I think there were signs against Chelsea where they did slightly struggle a little bit, but then that came back. We started the podcast talking about the defence, and I think everyone's going to have a good game if Liverpool are certainly to get a win. I think if they play as they have done this season so far, I think they'd be a bit disappointed not to get at least a draw.
Yeah, someone has actually said, Sanjay Mystery in the comments has said they aren't as good without Odegaard. I do think that's probably the biggest miss for them. I think Saka, if he's not involved, that is a big miss too. But behind, I think Odegaard, like you say, I think you've noticed a difference with him not being in the team in terms of the amount of chances that they've created and things over the last few weeks. So I think that is massive, him not being involved. Yeah. We've got another really good question from LFC SG. Thanks, Stevie, for sending in another one. How many of Arsenal's first 11 would get into this Liverpool team?
I don't even know what
he's suggested, or she has suggested, Saka, Odegaard and Rice.
Saka over Salah?
No.
Declan Rice, I'd have him. Yeah, he can come in.
Rice would be one.
Would you swap this current version of Ryan Gravenberch that we've got for Declan Rice?
I don't know really, because the two very
too early to judge, isn't it?
Interpretations of that defensive role. Yeah, that's definitely
that's
one.
I know, and again, someone's going to say, "Oh, what about this, that, and the other?" But that can't. What about left back? But the problem is, left back, haven't been.
They don't have a settled.
And there's no way I'm having Ben White over Trent at right back.
A shout for Gabriel or Saliba to partner.
Saliba and Van Dijk would be fearsome, as much as Konate's been great.
You might say Havertz up front, depending on how you play. Because I was going to say, if Liverpool are to get something from this game, it depends on how they deal with him, because he's kind of like a not as good Firmino, if that makes sense. He's like a German Firmino. If there is such a thing.
You can have loads of debates, couldn't you? And two huge fan bases, I'm sure they will over the course of the weekend on Twitter and whatever. And we're going to see the combined 11 pieces, aren't we? Which always make themselves known.
I think it's probably quite an even one, isn't it? I reckon you'd probably end up with 5 of one, 6 of the other, that kind of thing.
For Szoboszlai would definitely be one for me.
Are you saying you want Declan Rice in there as well?
Probably.
And then we've also got, who did we say?
Well, there's debate over Saliba for Konate.
Probably Havertz up front over the two of them, Jota and Nunez, depending on how you want to play it.
Yeah.
And
Diaz, Martinelli.
I'm still having Diaz. Yeah. Still having Gakpo over Martinelli. Although Martinelli has a tendency to have a decent game against Liverpool, so we'll have to wait and see.
Well, you were both there at the press conference this morning. Arne Slot got asked about how important this game is. He said, "We all know that taking points from your competitor is important. Nobody knows in this early stage who's going to be your competitor or your biggest competitor, but I think we all know that Arsenal will be one of them, and dropping points against them or winning points against them is always important." When you look at last season, Liverpool's record in sort of that mini league between them and the so-called Big Six, Liverpool didn't perform particularly well. I think it was 12. Did you write something on this today? You might be.
Yes.
Go on. How many points did they get in those games? Was it 12?
I know that they got as many points as Man City did in the games against Arsenal and Liverpool and Man City.
Right.
Arsenal got 8.
Well, they beat Villa, didn't they, in terms of soft horse?
The
thing beat Villa at Anfield in September, and then they beat Chelsea at Anfield. And in terms of last season's top 6,
they got 12 points. No, in terms of the Big
Six, it was 12 out of possible
Tottenham,
30.
United, Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool.
My maths was right
points.
then. I was slightly concerned that I hadn't done that right.
And they've already got 6 from those games because they beat United and they beat Chelsea, so they're already halfway there. But
it's the away games, isn't it? You know, last season Liverpool got a well-earned point at the Etihad, but then they get beat at Arsenal. Drew with Chelsea on the opening day.
Drew at Old Trafford.
Drew with Aston Villa towards the end of the season. So it's definitely an area Liverpool can improve on. You know, that sort of little mini league.
Doesn't always mean that you win the league. Liverpool actually finished top of that mini league in 2021 when they only just got into the top 4 at the last game of the season. But if you are a team, the best way to stop other teams around you from winning is to beat them.
Absolutely. We've got a question from Barry McLaughlin now who says, "Do you feel Arsenal are getting more red cards as referees are all sick of Arteta's antics over the last few years, the same way it felt refs didn't give us decisions after Klopp ran up to the 4th official?"
No, I think they're getting red cards because they're committing fouls.
Saliba's was a sending off. He was the last man. Evan Nielsen was through on goal. Little bit of sympathy for them with Ben White getting the second yellow. Not Ben White, Declan Rice getting the second yellow against Brighton. Was it Brighton?
It was Brighton, yeah. Less so the Trossard one. That was just silly. What was he doing?
Yeah. I mean, kicking the ball, especially when it's happened like 2 weeks early,
and it's literally on half time as well.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to feel too sorry for them when you consider the start to last season when Liverpool had something mad like 3 red cards in 4 games or something like that, and some of them were pretty dubious. Alexis McAllister's was rescinded, wasn't it?
We can't talk about that.
Why?
Because we just can't.
I don't know what he's.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I mean, by the letter of the law, Rice's and Trossard's were both correct, even though he probably is a bit harsh. Saliba's was definitely a red card. Mm-hmm. Not really arguing that one. I thought Tosin Adebayo should have been sent off as well for the similar offence. Even though there were some people.
Do you think it was I don't think it was a red.
It was the same.
It was the same. It was a very similar situation.
It was similar, but it wasn't the same.
There was no one covering though, was there?
Colwell was around. He would have got.
I mean, Colwell was closer to Jota than Ben White was to Evan Nielsen, but still do both reds for me. But yeah, what it does mean is Saliba is suspended for this one, which could make all the difference, really.
Yeah, I wonder who they'll play there then.
Gabriel, maybe Tomiyasu comes in at right back and Ben White comes into centre half. I'm not sure, really.
That's what I'd do.
Yeah. Thanks very much, Arteta. We'll move on to Liverpool's team selection then. We obviously know who's going to be in goal. Gorsty, give us your back line.
Yeah, I think Robertson will come back in for Tsimikas, even though Tsimikas was the official UEFA man of the match the other night. Somehow, yeah.
That was a slightly odd. I mean, his crossing I thought was fantastic in terms of his set piece delivery.
Salah, doesn't he, for the winner with Nunez's tapping? But didn't start the game too well. I didn't think
it was one of the more sort of random man of the match choices that I've seen. Although Salah got it against Bologna, didn't he, when he was absolutely dreadful for the vast majority of the game.
The 2 goalkeepers. I thought the 2 goalkeepers played well.
Yeah. So, but Robertson will start. Other than that, can't see too many changes. Obviously, Kelleher in for Alisson, and I'm keeping the back 4 otherwise unchanged.
You agree with that, Doyle?
Yep.
We've got a question. We had one earlier on from Chris Brack who asked about Curtis Jones. Do you think he will come into the 11 for the weekend, or will he stick with the midfield that started against Leipzig? What would you do if you were on a slot?
I think it comes down to what I said before about the midfield, and you can't have Arsenal with that 3 midfield and not have Szoboszlai playing, so he'd have to play. and you're not going to drop either Gravenberch or McAllister, so it will be those three.
Yeah, I think this is the key one, isn't it, for Slot? Does he reward Curtis Jones with another run out after probably his best performance for Liverpool against Chelsea? Thought he was absolutely superb. But I can see what Doyle is saying in terms of Szoboszlai's running power. Will need to get about the pitch and close spaces and press and make sure that Arsenal don't get too much of a sort of wind in the sails. So yeah, I'd probably just go with the same one as Doyle, actually.
Yeah.
I think this is a game that's made for Szoboszlai, actually.
Yeah, I think big pitch.
I just think everything about it is going to suggest I'm giving him a 4 in the ratings.
I think Curtis Jones is brilliant, but I think if he were to come in, it would be a very technical midfield, but not a particularly physical
I mean, the thing is, he'll play at some point. He'll be one of the first subs who comes on, because those 3 midfielders aren't going to last the full 90.
Oh, I've had a lovely comment here from LFC SG. Thanks again, Stevie. A Kelleher-esque performance from Beth there. 0 drop-off from Joe Alison Becker Rimmer. Well, that's the nicest thing anyone has ever said to me, so thank you very much.
Is it really the nicest thing anyone's ever said to you?
It's up there. I get quite a lot of abuse in this office, don't I, really? So.
Who from? It's not from me or Gorsty.
Yeah. Gorsty, it's certainly not Gorsty. Gorsty's lovely. Give us your front line, Gorsty.
Tough love, that's what it is. Tough love.
Yeah, I mean, no Jota, so it's a bit of an easy one down the middle, isn't it? Darwin Nunez. We'll see if Federico Chiesa does indeed return to training either today or tomorrow, as Slot hinted, but he's not going to be starting either. So Mo Salah and Diaz or Gakpo is the one that he sort of wrestles with on a game-by-game basis, doesn't he? Gakpo obviously started the other night. So I'll bring Diaz back in, as he tends to cause Arsenal problems with his running style. So that's my front 3.
It's an interesting one, because really the only selection issue that he's got is who to play on the left. Because Gakpo started the last 3 games, hasn't he? Palace, Chelsea, now Leipzig, and he's done really well. So I think with Diaz, he's more effective. He's a better person to come on a sub, because he can offer...
Yeah, he's more electric, isn't he?
Basically, yeah. So I think I'd do it that way around.
So you'd go Gakpo, would... Yeah. No, interesting. Before we finish then, we need to do our NordVPN Person of the Week, because you didn't do it on Monday. So, Gorsty, any suggestions?
Kelleher, maybe. Just because he...
But don't forget, this is for Monday, as in last Monday, so Wednesday didn't happen.
No, we don't have to be that specific. We
do. No, we do it again on Monday.
No, we don't. We can just do it.
Next one becomes Person of the
We can do it from Chelsea and
Leipzig. Really
Leipzig.
good performance against Leipzig, and we spoke to him before that game, and we spoke to him on Wednesday night as well. And any Liverpool player
who
is
stops in a
willing
mix
to
zone
speak to us at the moment, I will be very happy with. So yeah,
Curtis Jones.
Yeah.
Actually, new dad and all that.
Yeah, we'll give it. Yeah, we'll give it to Curtis for the new baby.
Thanks for the Kelleher explanation. That was good.
And also, I mean, if he has another good performance on Sunday, you can put him in next week.
Yeah, no pressure, Keeve.
I'm actually coming with you, aren't I, on Sunday?
Yeah.
No Paul Gorst at the Emirates, so I'm filling in. We are driving down, so if anyone's got any...
I'm driving down.
Doyley's driving down, I'm sitting in the passenger seat annoying him. So if anyone's got any song suggestions for the journey, tweet us, let us know.
I know what you're going to say.
Chapel Roan, yeah. I was a big fan.
You got any for us? We know what you're going to be.
Just as long as Kistry's on the way back, which has become a little bit of a routine when Liverpool have won away from home.
Yeah, so we can't break that tradition.
No, we can't. Don't play it before, I know.
No.
We were listening to something a bit hardcore on the way in from the press conference, and it was like Friday afternoon, a bit early for this.
Yeah,
bit early.
Save it for after the game.
Well, save it for about 1 o'clock this morning, but tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Go on.
Well, yeah. Any song suggestions? Feel free to tweet us. Send them our way.
In the comments.
Leave them in the comments. Yeah, that'd
Just
be.
send it to Beth.
Yeah.
She'll be in charge of the tunes. I'll be too busy driving.
Yeah.
Did I mention I was driving?
Anyone
twice.
else coming with you?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know for sure.
Potentially some people formerly of this parish, but we're not. We're not.
There could be some legends with us, but we'll let you
They've
know.
not. I don't know if they've heard I'm coming yet, so they might bail. So yeah. Well, you guys will be back on Monday, will you?
We haven't predicted the score yet.
Oh, score predictions, of course. Yeah. Sorry. Go on, Doyley.
I think. Oh, go on, Ghosty first.
1-1 draw.
I think it'll be 1-1 as well.
I'm going to go 2-2. I think it will be a draw. I think there'll be goals. Well, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. But thank you for now for listening to the Blood Red podcast.